What are founders getting wrong about go-to-market at the minute?
Many times it's the founder themselves. You can have a great idea and you can have a great product. It doesn't mean that you're going to win in the marketplace. We may need fewer people, but what they're able to deliver and bring is even more important.
The goal is to scale the business, but not necessarily headcount. So how are you structuring that go-to-market function?
It's an excellent question. Distribution. Now that means a lot of different things, but what it means in my world is...
In today's episode, we speak with Stu Gold. Stu has been involved in 3 major tech waves: the internet, video communication, and now AI. Stu was one of the early team members at Microsoft during the launch of MSN, and also led sales and marketing at Tandberg through its $3 billion acquisition by Cisco. He has since been involved in over 15 startups, mainly within the AI space, and is currently CRO at WISEcode and is building the world's largest food intelligence platform. He also runs xZactly.ai, which is a go-to-market consultancy solely focused on AI startups. In today's episode, we get into what scaling looks like in an AI-driven world and what's making companies investable in 2026. So let's jump straight in. Stu, great to see you.
All right, Ian, good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Really looking forward to the conversation today.
Likewise. So let's kick things off. Stu, could you give us a quick intro, who you are, what you do?
Sure. I'm Stu Gold. I have been involved in advanced technologies really my entire career. I've been fortunate enough to be at the cusp of really 3 major technical tipping points. I got involved in the internet extremely early on, having been involved in building Sharp Electronics' first ever website in mid-90s. That got me to Microsoft when they were just launching MSN.com, and I worked on the launch of MSN as part of Steve Ballmer's group when Bill Gates was still at the company, and it was really still a major growth vehicle. So I've been involved in the internet early on. Actually was fortunate enough to then move over into the earliest days of exactly what we're doing right now, Ian, which is video communications, and was with that industry as it was first moving from ISDN technologies to IP technologies, and through a set of different businesses, actually ended up with a company that was acquired by Cisco for about $3 billion. My last role at Cisco was involved in running sales operations for the WebEx product. And then over the last 8 years, well before the real launch of even ChatGPT, I've been involved in AI businesses and have had the ability to the fortunate situation of being involved of the continued growth of AI technologies, what it's turned into today. Been involved in 2 businesses that were acquired. And that's what I'm looking forward to talking to you about today.
Great. And you mentioned there earlier on in your career, like you've been through so many different waves. You've started off in big tech, Microsoft, Cisco,
Yep.
Then you've moved into early stage businesses. How has that transition been for you?
Yeah, I think it's, well, I've been fortunate enough to do it a number of times now, but let me take a step back and be clear. I've always been on the business side of things, right? So some of the parts of the businesses that I've been involved in remain the same, right? You have to listen to the client. You have to deliver a great product that's never really based on the technology, but that is solving someone's underlying business problems. Now, going from a large organization like a Microsoft, which again, I was at in my early 20s, was really like getting an MBA, right? So the ability to learn, everyone in a room is, super smart people who've done amazing things, and you can move and do anything because of the resources. I think when you move from some of the larger corporations and big global companies into smaller startup organizations, you realize that without those resources, you have to find other ways to succeed, right? People don't pick up the phone just because it's Stu from Microsoft or Stu from Cisco. You have to truly be able to engage the market that you're working in by providing them a unique opportunity to solve their problems. Right. And that's been one of the most interesting things. What matters the most and what continues to be the most important is, I think, building businesses that can get momentum. It's the single most important word you're ever going to hear from me. If you could get momentum and you can lean into that momentum, to me, that's how you know you've got something that you could turn into a real business. So the transition, and I've gone back and forth, Ian. So I've been able to go, from a Microsoft to startups, and then into Cisco, and then back into startups and high growth companies. I'd say the other thing it comes down to is the people. It's the people you're surrounded with, the people that you're working with every day, the passion, the motivation, and the willingness to be flexible and know that it's never going to be a straight line. For every 3 steps up, we'll get a step back, but then we'll get 3 more steps forward again.
Yeah. I think it's just knowing that though, and you going through the reps of doing that that then calms the ship, especially for new people that haven't experienced that, you know? And when you say momentum, do you mean around product market fit? What do you mean by momentum exactly?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So look, momentum doesn't necessarily mean success.
Mm,
Momentum just means continually moving forward, right? And doing it at a pace. The one thing that I would say is important in these more early stage businesses is just do something. It doesn't have to be right. The second most important word is probably pivot, right? Or continue to evolve. I don't think there's a business that I've been involved in. And like I said, besides two of the largest tech companies in the world, Microsoft and Cisco, I've probably been involved in at least 15 or more startup high growth companies, plus investment and raising capital for many, many others. So Ian, I think what's interesting is that you know where you want to start, you know where you want to get to. How you're ultimately going to get there, look, things are going to change. Competitors are going to change. New technologies are going to come out. And most importantly, if you do it right, the market's going to move you to where you should be, right? And you have to be able to willing to make those shifts. I always try to find, early clients that are not only going to be great customers, but they're going to help us evolve our solution. And in many ways, actually help us develop what our solution is in a way that's not only going to be good for them, but good for others in the same industry, so we can start to get that type of scale out of development.
great. Yeah, great point. Because I think I even heard the phrase "perfection kills progress,"
Yeah,
and it's even like that in my
that's a
business as
good
well.
one.
You're trying to perfect everything.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, perfection could kill progress. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and then look, you can't win in these markets and early day businesses without really strong collaboration. I'm dealing with it right now. It's how the engineering and the developers come together with the product people, come together with the go to market team. All the way down to what marketing is doing to ultimately be able to flip that back, so it's not all outreach, and now it starts to become more inbound, and how you can
Yeah.
elevate your brand and start to get strong positioning. But look, it starts with a problem, it starts with a passion, and then it always evolves from there.
I suppose, yeah, your career history, you've worked on in multiple departments, right? So you've
Yeah.
seen that, and then when you get into early stage business, you see that collaboration is needed. I'm sure
Yeah,
because of that. Yeah.
absolutely. One of the earlier. So let me just be clear. I started my career and spent the first 15 years or so was in marketing. I mean, I got into
Mm,
this whole technology industry by really starting off in advertising in New York City. Sharp
mm.
Electronics was my client. We were doing print advertising and old school, out of home billboards on the freeway and TV commercials. And I was working with the launch of their first ever laptop line of computers and just doing a traditional advertising campaign for, one of the larger New York City ad agencies. I was just an ad agency guy, which was awesome and fun on the business side. And then Sharp wanted their first ever website, sharp-usa.com. And since I was doing the laptop stuff, they're like, well, you're dealing with the tech. Go ahead. Maybe you can help them build a website. And coming out of that experience, realize, well, there's thousands of other advertising people in New York City who are doing TV and radio and print and out of home. But this internet could be something. And that's what kind of got me over to Gray Advertising, where I was one of the first 10 people on the Gray Interactive business. I'm working with Dell, Sprint, a number of other early stage technology businesses and communication companies, and building out websites. And it was from there that I ultimately ended up at Microsoft. So one, you just never know, but I bring it up because having been on the marketing side for so many years and then switching over to the brand side or to the sales side halfway through my career, it has allowed me to understand both sides of the equation, right? When I talk to the marketing team and they're telling me things, I'm like, whoa, hold on. I actually did that for 10 or 15 years,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and
You're a
then I
true
see what
CRO.
you
Yeah.
guys did. Yeah. So I understand it from both sides.
And like, if you look at the companies you're at now and most recently, Superwise, now WISEcode in
Yep.
AI within nutrition, they're not straightforward sells, and there's education for the customers, right? So I suppose,
Yes.
what's attracting you towards those verticals?
Ian, it's such a great question. I like and have had a lot of success in creating new industries in their earliest days. I would say I am really not a sales guy. Where I've succeeded, Ian, is being an evangelist for new technologies. And I go all the way back to the earliest days of video communications and talking to senior leaders and explaining to them why they would need video. And they would say, well, we would never, video on people's computers. That's ridiculous. Why would we even want that, right? We could barely get it in a conference room just for the senior level executives. So I like the opportunity, Ian, to not just sell my company, but to raise all boats and build out a new industry. I love the fact that I can talk about and say, and this is just personal fun, the internet, the internet, I was involved when it literally was first starting and everybody was using Netscape. I was at Microsoft when Explorer first came out. So, those are things that are exciting. The industries that I've gone in and out of have always allowed me to kind of play that role of, it's not about what the technology is going to do. It's about how it's going to solve the problems that those businesses in that industry are having, or more importantly, create extra value for the consumers, the purchasers, and the users of whatever the solutions are that are coming out of that industry. And again, you have to remember, I'm sure these technologies apply across industries. So take video, take what I'm doing at WISEcode right now with food and nutrition. These aren't just in one section, right? Video communications, it's the same technology, but the way it's being used for HR recruiting versus in the healthcare space is completely different. The way that the data around food and ingredients and nutrition is being used at WISEcode right now, and I just came back from a trip to California last night, how it's being leveraged, how that data is being used in the CPG food manufacturing space is different than how it's being used in the retail space. And that same data and information is being applied into healthcare and pharmaceutical. So you're not just talking about your own technology, but it's really about the solutions across different vertical industries and how it can be applied. And that all goes back to evangelizing, explaining, and elevating the value of those propositions.
And how are you spotting these gaps?
Pure luck.
Are you sure? I don't know if it is, because you keep doing it.
Here's the real answer. The answer is that I have always been willing to take a risk, right? It looks like I spotted gaps early, and they haven't all been, you only talk about the ones that work. But the truth is, look, when I left advertising to go and get involved in the internet, when no one even had laptop computers. I mean, like, the internet was this thing that was in a room that maybe special people had access to. Everybody said, really? I thought you were going to make TV commercials and stuff. Like, why would you go on this internet thing? When I left pure internet, pure.com stuff and got involved in video, everybody said, but Stu, the internet's finally become exactly what you helped it become, what you were involved in. Why would you leave building websites and e-commerce and all that to get involved in video? It's terrible, right? The voice and the video didn't even sync up back then. It was a fuzzy thing that would drop out half the time. Why would you get involved in that? Well, a couple $1 billion later, when a company called Tandberg was acquired by Cisco, and I was the head of marketing here in the US, that worked out really well, right? So, and then again, to even, Stu, you're going to leave Cisco? I mean, why would you leave Cisco? You could stay there for the next 20 years and have a great career. I was like, nah, private equity, venture capital backed startups and high growth companies is kind of where I want to be. And I'm always looking for the next thing. And AI seemed like, again, very early days around what that was, how the data was being used. So I've kind of moved around, following some trends. But again, I would say, it's probably more luck than intelligence.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there's intelligence behind it for sure as well. I suppose that brings me on to the next question. Like, you work with a number of different companies as well. Like, you have a consultancy, go-to-market consultancy, xZactly.ai. You're specifically working with AI startups, right? So you're seeing multiple companies at the same stage with the same challenges, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely.
So what are founders getting wrong about go-to-market at the minute in that industry?
That's great. I think it's, so I don't want to put all founders in one big bucket. I would say, I would flip that a little bit and say, many times it's the founder themselves. You can have a great idea and you can have a great product. It doesn't mean that you're going to win in the marketplace. I am sure that at some point, somebody may have actually created a better mobile phone than the iPhone. And people would say, oh, the iPhone's not the greatest product. Well, it certainly is one in the marketplace, right? For whatever reason. And I think a lot of the times it's a couple things. One, it's getting that traction traction is so important. And two, it's understanding that you have to build this, right? I've worked with people who can, barely make a car payment as the founder, but they're already worried about, distribution of equity because they believe it's going to be a $10 billion business. Okay. Usually those are the founders that I tend to walk away from, right? The truth is we have nothing right now. Let's go and build something. Let's bring a product to market. Let's get those early stage clients. Let's understand where the market's gonna move us to as much as we're gonna pull the market into. That's really, really important to me. Raising capital, I have found, in good financial environments and in bad, there's always money to be had. You can always raise capital. Terms may be a little different, but you can always raise capital for a good business. But what you can't always do is get clients, right? So put together a great product and do it in one spot. I will say, I think Amazon set the stage for most technology organizations many, many, many years ago when they first launched. And when I was at Microsoft, actually, they sold books. Go and do one thing really well. Okay, go and do one thing really well, and then you can expand. If you're a medical platform, a company that I have an investment in, go and sell it into one category and do really, really well and continue to build in that category. And then you can go and expand out, right? Don't try to do everything at once. It gets too complicated and you're going to need that revenue. It's a virtuous cycle so you can raise more capital, so you continue to expand, build out your product and go to market more effectively. So to me, that's what's most important is let's just take this one little piece at a time, right? I'm constantly asking teams, Ian, what does success look like? What does success look like this week? What does it look like in 30 days? What does it look like at the end of the quarter? What does it look like at the end of the year? And what is our North Star, 3 years down the road? That to me is, but it starts with what do we need to do by Friday?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so interesting you said that because I actually had the podcast with the founder of a company called EdgeTier in Ireland.
Okay.
And he was mentioning that the secret for their success was niching down, but then also solving challenges that just came up instead of trying to solve challenges that will come up in the future.
My favorite clients, and I'm in a situation like this right now, is to be able to work with a client that's going to pay us to build something specifically for them. It's still within our realm. It's still off of our platform, but to productize something or perhaps make it a little more special to meet certain needs that while they're paying us to build it, in my mind, I know that they're paying us to actually help us build a product for them that we will then be able to go out and bring to the broader market. And I think it's really important and people miss that.
Wow. And are you seeing this from more technical founders that don't have that commercial support there or that commercial co-founder, or is it across the board?
I would definitely say it's actually, let me say this. You would think that's the case. You would think it's the technical co-founder who is, but I think many technical co-founders over the last 15, 20 years have really learned that eventually they know they're going to bring on a go-to-market person. I think it's the opposite. I think it's the founder who has a great idea, but doesn't really understand what it takes to build that out and build a real product that's scalable and sellable into the enterprise and into everyone always says to me, the first thing people ask when I start with companies is something along the lines of, Stu, can you get us a meeting with Boeing? My answer is, yeah, we could go to Boeing, but you're not ready for Boeing yet because you're going to go to Boeing and our product is fine, but fine sucks in the enterprise space. It's not good enough. So then Bowie's going to say, yeah, this is cool, but it's not there yet, right? So then come back to us in another 18 months and you've now, or 3 years or whatever it is, but you've lost Boeing now for the next whatever. And in some ways they may not even see you again because they've already seen what you had, right?
One shot, yeah.
I'm a believer of you should kind of build slowly. And then when you're ready, you go to the larger organizations and into the market. Now that doesn't take very long, but I think sometimes that the less technical founders believe that they can move really, really fast without the right product. It's kind of tale of two cities. The technical guys, they don't want to move fast at all because they want it to be the perfect product. But when you go to market with a technical founder that they've really built something great. And they probably have already recognized a gap in the market because most technical founders are coming out of something else, right? The gentleman I worked at Superwise, brilliant founder in the ML model monitoring and observability space, which would track models, data, model drift. He had been part of a much larger global technical organization where he recognized that as an issue in building models for them, and then was able to go off and find the solution. So I find technical folks are actually sometimes the better founders, stronger founders, and it's the founders that just have a great business idea, but they don't really know that they need to develop a great product before you can go to market with it.
Yeah. Interesting you say that, because I've actually heard that a couple of times. The commercial founder, they'd have a bit of a reality check that their go-to-market strategy isn't as good as they think it is. Whereas technical founders are like, this isn't my space, you handle it, you know?
Exactly. That's the exact point.
What are you seeing breaking for you to then come into these businesses?
Yeah. Well, I have been in businesses at all stages, from literally an idea with nothing to working with, I was the executive vice president of sales and marketing for 130 million, annual revenue, publicly traded company that was, primarily held by a private equity firm that had brought me in. So I've seen it from all stages. Growth, though, is the main piece, right? So how do we grow? Now, that could be growing from 0 to 1. Sometimes it's 0 to half a 1. And it's just, how do we even get into the market? How do we find our first 1 or 2 partners or clients? Or how do we organize ourselves to go out and raise that first bit of capital, which is what I was doing with xZactly.ai? Or you come into a business that's had what I would call declining growth. They were doing, a certain amount of revenue and it's kind of started to shrink. And how can you come in and turn that around? That's usually less of a technology and product problem, as it's more of usually a go-to-market problem when you're starting to see that type of a trend. And when I look at what I'm doing right now at WISEcode, it's a really interesting space to come into a market. Business has been built out from a data and technology perspective for the last 4 years, fully funded business, and was really just ready to go to market. So the excitement there was at the speed and the pace of being able to take something and just boom, finally just move it forward very, very quickly, has been a nice opportunity as well. So it's really, I've seen it across the board, but growth is what matters. And that's what people come to me for.
And I suppose you're supporting companies with investment as well, right? What are you seeing investors look for with AI businesses at the minute?
Now that has changed. First they were looking for the words AI. And if you were AI, you could go out and get investment. I think what's changed dramatically now is a couple things. And let me speak to the biggest change over just the last 6 months or so. The move from what would be considered a SaaS company or a SaaS product to an AI first platform. So if you think of SaaS, you think of data, access to data and integration of data and leveraging data, you think of drop down boxes and let me select this filter and then I'm going to get what I want. And everything now I'm finding investors are looking for needs to be LLM integrated, right? You shouldn't have to do filters to access data. You should be able to just type in, here's what I want, right?
Yeah.
When people look, and the other thing I'm finding now, Ian, is it's moving away from features and moving away to just engagement and solution. So think of it this way. What feature does ChatGPT actually have? It's just a box
function. Yeah.
That's it. And it's just a box. You type in what you need and you get it back, right? It's not broken out by, well, this is the exact feature or product specific for this particular industry, category, or product that's being solved. So you don't have to choose, well, I want it to be like this, and like this. As a user, just tell it what you need. And I think that right now investors are looking for those broader platform plays that can engage data. And I'm coming at it from the data side. I'm definitely more of a B2B than just consumer. But ultimately, I think it's that engagement with users, either on the consumer or the enterprise side, which is give them access to data or to information or functionality that they can just go and use by telling the system what they want, period. So that's been a big move. From an investment perspective overall, I think it's important to be able to prove that you can get traction in the market and that your technology is somewhat defensible and it isn't going to be, which is standard, but the pace of development recently, you look at stuff like Claude Code. What used to take millions and millions of dollars and months and a large team, you could do it, 1 or 2 guys in 3 days. So I think people are looking for that. Used to be considered defensible from a technology perspective, now has to have other elements to it to ensure that it's going to be worth the value that people are investing into it.
How are companies like, because things are changing the whole time. So for
Yeah.
something that you think is defensible now may not be defensible in 6 months' time. So
Right.
how are companies and investors thinking about that?
Product market fit. Are
Yeah.
you solving a product market problem that is big?
Mm.
I'm in a business right now with WISEcode, the food and beverage industry, retail. It's a $10 trillion business annually on a global scale, right? You're not just solving a little problem that's going to just be totally niche. Now, there are great opportunities in very, very niche areas, but you better make sure that you're going to own that market, right? So I think people are looking for product market fit, illustration of product market fit, a vision and a positioning that's going to really matter, and the ability to execute on that, and the ability
Yeah.
to move very, very quickly. I'd also say what people are looking for now in the investment space is smaller teams. You don't need 50 people in customer success now. You need 3 people and a really good AI agent. It doesn't even have to be that good, right? I mean, you don't need to build. When people look at where their investment is going to go, don't tell them it's going into people. It should go into AI technologies, capabilities, agents, and integrations.
Yeah.
So you should be able to do much, much, much more with less and have an even bigger impact and move even faster if you're truly using all the technologies and capabilities that are out there. And that's, I'd say, one of the bigger things that investors are looking for.
Yeah. I actually had a guest on last week, Frank. He's CEO of a company called Salesforce, but he just hired a VP of sales. But he had 2 candidates final round. The candidate that didn't get it said that the secret to scaling is more headcount. And
Yeah.
he was like, no, that's not what we want to do.
Right.
And the other person was talking about systems, and headcount, is a factor, but it's about that ecosystem around the headcount. That's
Yeah.
super,
And also
super
how you go to
important.
market. Look, you used to go to
Yeah.
market and try to figure out what you're all about your potential prospects as you were engaging with them. We create dossiers on prospects before we even reach them. One of the coolest wows isn't the first wow that we have isn't even our technology or our platform. It's usually, how do you know so much about us? How are you able to tell me about the problem that I'm having in my business or where I fit in my market before we've even really dug into it? And the answer is that information's out there, right? Where are you in your industry? Where are you against your competitive set? So we're able to go in and understand the problems they may be able to have. And that information's out there. So if you're not leveraging the AI tools that are going to give you that advantage of being able to move faster into a market and know more about the potential prospects and clients, the problems that they're having, and giving them a better solution, you're already behind.
WISEcode are on an exciting journey. We
Yeah.
discussed this a couple of weeks ago. You mentioned, I'm going to quote you here, you mentioned you want to get to
Oh,
$1 billion in revenue with under
oh,
100 employees.
oh, yeah. Well, we want to get to $1 billion or more in valuation, and I
Oh,
think we
okay.
could,
In
and
evaluation.
I think we can do that under under 100 people, definitely, but I think we could do it closer to 50 people.
Okay. And how are you getting on that journey so far?
I'd say we're getting on pretty well. Yeah, we're really starting to get into the market. We've literally launched the product maybe 30 to 45 days ago. And we're moving in a space that's really exciting about what we're doing and where we're at in bringing a category, again, building a new category. WISEcode, and the word WISE stands for what I should eat. And what WISEcode is doing is leveraging data and AI to ensure that everybody really understands they actually deserve to know the truth about what's in their food, right? What we eat shapes our health, our energy, our lives every single day. But not everybody always has that transparency about what's truly in their food, and how do they make decisions based on information that's right for them individually. What should I eat if I'm worried about diabetes in the future? What should I eat if I'm coming off a GLP-1 medication? What should I eat if I'm training for a marathon? Everything is unique to an individual. And that's really what we're focused on. And we've built the single largest food intelligence platform in the world. We really consider it the intelligence layer for food. And that's what we're focused on. If you think about what the Human Genome Project was, Ian, and being able to
Yeah.
really dig in, we're unlocking the power of that we're creating the Food Genome Project. We're really digging in to understand and illustrate what's in people's foods so that it reverberates back all the way up through the line of, well, what's being manufactured, how it's being manufactured,
Yeah.
how it's being distributed, and most importantly, what's on the shelves in the stores that we'll go to every day, so that we can find the best assortments for ourselves individually based what Ian is looking for, what Stu's looking for, and ultimately, how the industry works. So it's been It's been a great journey. We've been at some big industry conferences recently. I just came back from the Beverage Forum in LA. It was unbelievable what's going on in the beverage space. We've been at Expo West. We're very focused on non-ultra processed foods as a starting point. And we're finding it's really, again, those markets that has no idea about what's going on in the world of data and AI. And it's about to be significantly impacted by it.
Well, yeah, it sounds exciting. How have you segmented your ICP there? Or is that, who are you looking at specifically?
Excellent. It's a great question. In fact, on the plane last night, I started to rearrange how my small organization, the sales and go-to-market team, is actually going to focus on that. So instead of everybody doing everything, look, there's a lot happening all the way up at the CPG space, right? The consumer packaged goods, literally the food manufacturers. Some of those are the largest in the world with hundreds of brands. And what's going on in the better for you space and the new emerging products is unbelievable. So there's a market in that space. It's actually a 3-tier market system. So it starts with the consumer packaged good manufacturers. Then it goes to some of the largest distributors in the country.
Okay.
KeHE, Unfi, other ones like that. And then it goes down into the retailers. And there are retailers on the national scale. There are retailers on the regional scale. There are retailers on a local scale. There are retailers that are focused only on certain types of foods, better for you foods. So we're starting to really lean in and understand how our data and how our solutions and how the information that we're gathering, not only on the food side, but on the consumer side, what's actually happening in the store with the WISEcode app can be leveraged and create value uniquely. Same product, same data, same access, but used in a way that's going to empower and create more value for each of those categories. So manufacturers, distributors, those are the merchandisers and the buyers and the retailers. The one thing I've learned coming into this industry is that there is only so much space in a retail grocery store in the US, in the UK, wherever it may be. And they have to make very difficult decisions about what foods are going to be on those shelves, what the velocity of sales are going to be, and what's going to be best for their audiences and their clients. So there's a lot of information. And then you go down to the consumer side, which is trying to understand, well, what should I buy? And what does all this really mean? And how does it impact the health outcomes and the food related outcomes that they're looking for? So we're real excited. Again, it's a whole new industry.
Yeah.
But eventually, Ian, I believe that you'll be able to walk into a doctor's office, have your annual physical, and then say, look, Stu, based on how old you are and what your health goals are and family history, you should go and download this code from WISEcode and be able to go and scan products using your phone, and it'll tell you which are the best products that are specifically for you, your family medical history, what your goals are, what your current medical situation is, and what your healthcare objectives are.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
When is it coming to Europe, or what's the plans?
We've already had conversations with actually one of the largest single retail grocery stores in the UK, and we'll get there soon. But
nice.
Yeah, we believe this will be significantly a very much a global solution, and it's really all focused on the idea that we've created what is an entirely new category, which is food tech AI. And it's based on our food intelligence platform that's making food much more understandable. And, that's what's making it exciting.
From a go-to-market perspective, then, the goal is to scale the business, but not necessarily headcount. So how are you structuring that go-to-market function at the minute?
It's an excellent question. Distribution. And that means a lot of different things. But what it means in my world is, how do I reach the greatest number of people, the greatest number of government agencies, the greatest number of enterprise clients, which is, again, retail, distribution, consumer packaged goods. It's finding the right partners to help us go to market very, very quickly, becoming an embedded capability of data and information for others to use. We're not trying to make this just our data. We want to bring it to the world. So if I can get distribution, because it will have impact, true impact on people's health and success and what their goals are, we want to bring it to everybody. So it's not like we only want it in our app. We'll share it and find those partners as well. And that's how we're working through government agencies. We're working through large enterprises. But I think at this stage, it's partnerships. I think it's branding. And I think it's creating a vision and a mission and a clarity around what we're trying to achieve. right? And we really believe that a lot of the illnesses and healthcare issues in the world are based on what people are eating. Now, you should be able to eat what you want. We are not looking to preach, I'm the first one to say, I'm going to go grab myself some Oreos. But if you're going to eat
Good to
Oreos, you
know.
should at least know what's in
Yeah.
them, right? I mean, make those decisions. And I know what I'm getting with an Oreo, which is terrific. But there's plenty of other things out there that you may think you're eating more healthy than you really are from an ingredient perspective. And remember how important this is, because what you eat is what's driving healthcare, right? And health is what's driving all the other costs around healthcare. So this is
Mm.
integrated into the entire global system of finance and impact. So, we are really, really focused that one of the things, it's not that there's a food crisis. Really what there is a food information crisis. It's not that it's not about the food. It's that people don't really have the reliable information about what's actually in their food. It's contradictory or misleading. So when you look at that, the opportunity for us to find the right partners in that is what's allowing us to go to market very, very quickly. But again, I would go back to the first thing I said. We are leaning into AI capabilities. We're an AI first company. Everything we do is AI first, from how we go to market, the tools we use internally, how we're capturing data and information. We look at everything from how we can leverage AI and AI tools and capabilities.
You've experience in this space, right? But say other founders, how would they implement these solutions without implementing them all at the same time? Is it stages? Okay, this is the account executive, for example. There's workflows. Okay, that could be automated. Is it by stage like that?
Well, I would say it's cross-functional, right? It certainly started with our technology and development team and our engineers. I mean, I think they very early leaned in and said, okay, how can we develop our capabilities faster by using AI tools, right? I mean, we're not ashamed of leveraging the best that's out there. Right. I mean, I think everybody I talk to now is using a Claude Code type of solution in some way, shape, or form. If you're not, you're going to fall behind. Right. So I think it started in that space. I think it probably shifted over to what they were doing in some of the original kind of go to market stuff. And now it's just become a part of what we do. So I think you have to look at how can advanced technologies and tools, agents and other things be used for, how is it going to be used in the development side versus how it's going to be used in the product side versus how it's going to be used in go to market, and go to market's both marketing and sales, right? So just something recently, we just built an internal capability, and it was built by a guy on my team, a sales guy. I don't even know how I did it, but we realized we have so much data about all these companies. Why don't we let's flip the system. Instead of going out and telling about what we do, let's tell them about them. Let's show them a comparison of their information, their products, their food against the category, their competitors, against what's happening in the market, against consumer trends. We have it all.
So that's outreach. That's super personalized.
Beyond personalized.
Super personalized, yeah.
Beyond personalized. And we had the data. And I was like, well, why can't we just use our own data? And literally one of the guys on my team, sales guy, built a quick tool by using Claude Code or using whatever, something, and or a Cowork or something like that. And he not only was able to go into our database and pull all that info, then he dropped it into something else, and it created an entire dossier, beautiful sheet with our branding that can be immediately utilized and sent out. So we then said, okay, fine, let's find the top 250 clients that we think we want to focus on. Let's create a dossier of that information across the categories that I already spoke to you about, and let's go to market. And I can do all of that with a press of a button now. Unbelievable. So that has accelerated our go-to-market. It has created more value. And like I said, the first wow that our prospects get from us isn't even about our tool. The first thing they're saying is, how do you know this much about me? And why are you willing to tell me all this? Right? So we've already got them to go, okay, wait a minute. I want to hear a little bit more about this. And they know that if we have it for them, we have it for their competitors. So now there's the risk of falling behind because we're bringing the same information to everybody. So if you're the number 3 yogurt or the number 2 yogurt in the market, and you know that number 3 is going to be using this information, well, you probably want to get on that as well. Oh, and by the way, the same people that are using that information are the retailers that are making those decisions about which products to bring into a store, and the distributors, which are making decisions about which products to carry from the manufacturers. So what's happening is that our data very, very quickly is having an impact across all 3 of those major categories that are very, very interconnected. And then it drives all the way down to the consumer who through products like ours and others, they have in their hand the ability to scan a product and know exactly everything about it. So this is becoming a much tighter, faster approach to market because we're also driving the need and the value, not to just one segment, but across the entire connected value chain.
Yeah, well. And is that changing your thought process around hiring? Like if you have a challenge around scaling, do you, like traditionally you may have went, okay, we need more people. Now it's like, can we solve this with an AI solution? Is that right?
So most importantly, this team matters. We may need fewer people, but what they're able to deliver and bring is even more important. So from a hiring and staffing perspective, it's even more important to bring people. So I'll tell you what has been super important. And I think those teams should be built with people they all bring different, unique value propositions. So I would say one of the most important hires that I've made since I've been here is a woman who has been amazing on my team because she brought the Rolodex. She's been able to walk us into and have relationships. I've explained to Ian, I've been in many different industries. You've never heard me say that I was in the food and, consumer packaged good and, retail industry. But through her, she knows the right people to talk to. She knows the trends. She knows the interconnectedness of it all, even with all the data, even with all the outreach, even with all the AI tools. She has been and has become and will continue to be our single greatest asset because she has been able to introduce us to people that have then been able to create, through them, they can introduce. And now all of a sudden we're at the highest levels in some of the most important organizations. We would have gotten there, but she has accelerated WISEcode's pace into the industry by at least 6 months to a year because she brought the Rolodex. She knows the people, she knows the industry. Now I bring other value to that. Someone else on my team brings a different type of value, having come out of one of the largest consulting firms in the world and understands the value of how to leverage data and how to utilize it and how to impact change through that, right? And then I have another guy on my team who's he's a real expert at working on some of the more real highly complex deals. So this really does come down to the people, because you're not going to have 50 of them and you're not going to be able to cycle through and do the old, the top 20% or the A's and here's the B's and here's the C's. Yeah. Bell curve goes away a little bit and it becomes really, really important that you have people that as team members are going to bring their value. Because you're right, the data, the AI tools, that becomes commoditized if you're using it right. And it still comes back to the people's. I still believe that you have to have a great team and a team that's energized and motivated and passionate about what you're doing and understands, again, where we are today and where we need to be 5 days from now, but how that gets us somewhere in a month and ultimately to where we want to get to.
Such an important point. So like the AI is important, but you need to find those top 5%ers, embed them in the business, and then make them more powerful with the AI piece.
We're using AI for us to make really great people even better, make them spectacular. Not that they couldn't have been anyway, but we're giving them the tools, the data, the information to just move faster than ever before. And we're able to elevate our clients in a way that we can do more meaningfully. And because it's data driven and because it's really connected in this case, across that entire multi-tier value chain from the CPG manufacturer through the distributor into the retailer, all the way down to the actual consumer buyer. And it's amazing. And everything I'm talking about you today, Ian, if we have this conversation in 6 months, I'm going to be like, forget about that stuff. Totally different.
Good reason to ask you back on the show in a 6 months time.
Everything totally changed. But that's what makes it fun.
That's
what makes it fun.
And does that then change your mentality around hiring? Because each hire now has to be so important. You don't have space for dead wood, right? So
no.
What's your thought process on hiring now, and what are you looking for with individuals?
So a couple things. First of all, when we hire, I do want them to meet the people they're going to be working with across the organization. So, I'll be hiring somebody from a go-to-market perspective as well. Why do you want me to work? Why am I talking to the, head of AI or the chief product development person? And it's like, because those are the people that are really part of the broader team and we all need to be able to work together. So I really always like to get that type of feedback from across the organization. That's important to me. I think people need to be align, particularly in our case, with what we're trying to solve from a mission and vision perspective. That's really important. And you have to be flexible. I mean, this is still a startup. We are again evangelizing into an industry. I would say coming out of these last 3 days in LA at this really wonderful conference that I was at, the single most striking thing to me was the little amount that AI was discussed. And I thought that was fantastic because I thought to myself, this industry has no
Yeah.
idea what's about to happen. And I've been
Good
there. I've been
opportunity.
in these industries before where, like they're like, oh, that doesn't really matter. It will. It's going to matter faster than they believe. And I was surprised because I think you could go to almost any other industry. You could go to the construction industry and they're talking about AI and data and predictive analytics and all those great things. And I found that this industry really wasn't yet. The data that they're most focused on still is that scan data, at the checkout counter that shows sales information, velocity of sales, products moving through. But what they're not really focused on yet is the understanding of the power that the consumer is going to have to appreciate what's in their food and what that food is doing for them in a positive way to help them impact what they're looking for out of their lives. That's going to change, and it already has. And I think when we go back to this industry next year, go back to this conference next year, I think the keynote speaker will be talking about data and AI and predictive analytics and personalization and personalized nutrition and all those types of things, because that's definitely where the market's moving to.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's great to spot these things before it gets big, right? And then from I suppose a hiring perspective on that,
Yeah.
like what traits are you looking for now, or skills are you looking for now?
It's an excellent question. Look, we're still hiring for people, right? Let me put it this way. I learned this a long time ago. I try not to hire specifically for any one thing. I would rather hire a great athlete than a great second baseman, right? I would rather have someone who can play different roles, but they're going to be good at it and they are willing to learn and do that, right? I'm a New York Yankees fan my whole life. So I'm a shortstop, Hall of Fame shortstop, Derek Jeter, one of the greatest players ever on the Yankees. I would say, look, if I was picking people for a basketball team, I'm still going to pick Derek Jeter. I mean, he's one of the greatest athletes of all time, right? It's like, if you're playing kickball, I'll take Michael Jordan, right? You still want some of the best athletes out there. And that's really what we hire for, because the person who comes into my business today to do a certain thing, I guarantee you they're going to be required to do something a little different because the business is evolving and things are doing. So one, I'm looking for someone who could do that. And secondly, and this is really important, Ian, and I'm sure you see this all the time, I'm looking for someone with the mindset who's willing to do that and not say, oh, no, I only do this, or well, that's not really my role. Roles evolve very, very quickly in these types of businesses. And if you want to be a part of the organization's success long-term, you have to be willing to evolve with it. And then I look for people, and I think it's important, particularly in the startup environment, that recognize that and we don't know, right? How are we we don't have all the answers yet, and it's not going to be perfect. And, you're not walking into a Microsoft and they're saying, here's the product, go and sell this product. Here's the price. Here's this. That's not just where we are. So I'm looking for people that can evolve and understand what we're trying to achieve and be open and have a voice, because I believe that some of the best ideas can come from anywhere in the organization, anywhere.
Yeah.
And to me, that's really important. I'm looking for that type of insight and feedback from anybody, anywhere, that's going to help us succeed and bring more value to our clients.
How are you testing some of those skills? What are you asking individuals to see what their mentality is like?
Yeah. Again, I'm looking for, when I'm interviewing folks, I'm trying to understand the why behind things, right? Again, I've been in great situations, bad situations. I've had the ability to impact success, and I've probably had some impact on some failure along the way. So I want to understand someone's why, right? What does success look like for them? Because some people come to work because they want the camaraderie. Some people are here for the mission and the passion, and they believe in this more than anything. And some people are here because they want to make their first $1 million. And I'm cool with all that, right? I'm okay with everything. But if I understand what they're trying to get out of it and what's most important and what they're going to need to succeed, I probably could tell from their resume, their experience, or from talking to them what they're good at. I want to understand what you're not that good at. Right? Because I believe you should really focus on what people can do, not what they can't do. So There are managers, there are senior leaders that are always trying to, we need to make them better at this, right? Oh, they're not really good. Let's just have someone else do that part. I want to understand what you do really, really well. So if you're a big strategy person and you're going to make big stuff happen at this organization, but you're not really good at those details, go make all the big stuff happen that you can, and we'll make sure there's someone else to handle all those details. But if you're going to complain that the person who's going to do the big stuff isn't really good at the details, well, shame on you as an executive or as someone who hired somebody. So I want to understand, what are you going to bring to my business and why and how and what's important to you? And then tell me where you might get a little tripped up, right? Because then I want to be able to bring that to you.
Yeah.
You might have the
Resources
greatest
in.
Rolodex in the world, and that's where you're going to bring value to this organization because you know everybody and you understand the inner workings of a certain industry or certain types of organizations, but you may not be able to structure a deal. Philadelphia. Okay, no problem. Let's not complain when you can't structure a deal. So I really want to understand what people want to do, what can they do, and yet have that willingness to know, but we're going to take the best of what you do, and we may ask you to do other things with it, right? And that's important. And then I will say that you're only as good as the, as the worst situation within an organization. So, I don't want problems. I'm not looking for headaches. I don't need drama. I'm a no drama guy. We are just here to get stuff done.
Right. Bit of a random one. Biggest learnings that you had in your career?
The biggest learning I've had in my career is, look, there is a reality when one door closes, another window opens. And I have been through some wonderful successes and some disappointing failures, some that I am willing to say, boy, I was really a part of that. That just didn't work and I was a part of it. And others because, they weren't the right people. It wasn't the right product or whatever it is. And, you come out of those and I think you always feel like, now what? But I really believe that everything is moving you forward in one way, shape, or form. And that failure from 7 years ago, I'm applying some of those things today that are going to help make WISEcode a much, much more successful business. So I think, look, this has been a wild ride. It will continue to be a wild ride. I think you got to lean into that and just,
Embrace it.
You got to embrace it. If you're not, to me, that's probably the one thing that I've learned the most. And the other thing I've learned is at the end of the day, if you're not solving a business's problems or an individual's problems at a business or as a consumer, then you will not win as a product in a company. No one cares about technology. I actually could explain to you, because I come from the video communication space many, many years ago, exactly how this call works. You and I right now, we could talk about packet loss and jitter and all that sort of stuff. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. The technology is a driver, but what no one really cares. They care about the experience, right? You and I from two completely different geographical locations, being able to meet face to face, having this type of conversation, it's the outcome that matters. Generally, even though I've been in technology my entire career, I'm not a technologist, right? It's never about the technology. It's about the experience and the impact that you're going to have to either solve a problem or elevate a situation. And that's really what I look for.
Brilliant. Yeah, they're great points. Stu, that was fantastic. Really refreshing. Great insights. Yeah.
Thank you,
really
Ian.
good.
I appreciate the time and whatever we can do to work together. Let's stay in touch.
If people wanted to find you, how will they get in touch? You have LinkedIn, your website.
Yeah. Yep. I'm connected to tons of people on LinkedIn. Absolutely. Find me on LinkedIn. It's Stu Gold. I think it's the one that says triathlete, skier, and mountain biker in it. So there's still a whole nother part of my life, but absolutely have people find me. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me at sgold at wisecode.ai. And I'm happy to speak because I have found that it's these types of connections, Ian, these types of relationships that help you elevate entire organizations and industries.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.